We're wrapping up the second day of Vision 2030 all the way in the east of Johannesburg at Birchwood Hotel, and I'm joined by the Honorable COO of SAMSA. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
Lovely. Can you tell us a little bit about the contribution that your industry plays at achieving the NDP goals?
Well, the maritime industry actually has taken such a prominent space within the Agenda 2030. You'd recall that there's a newly launched program called Operation Pakisa, as new as 2014. Now, that whole program was meant at advancing the maritime industry. And the realization by government was that the maritime sector was left out during the development of the NDP. Although there were key elements that we could derive from the NDP as it stands. If you talk about issues of national interest, issues that we're quite interested in from a maritime point of view, issues of social cohesion, issues of productivity, issues of infrastructure development. Those things provided the basis for us to develop our own script to put back to the 2030 agenda. And so we're very pleased that there is one program that we then could officially attach to the NDP. And so our contribution then has been to sell what opportunities there are, particularly as we're grappling with the dialogue of saying, how do we create more jobs for this country? How do we create more resilient industries? Well, I normally use an example that says that if you are South Africa, situated halfway between the East and the West, whether between Europe and the Far East or North or South America and the Far East, or vice versa, you have an opportunity to provide unique services, very much like a halfway stop, Ultra City if you like. Because if you're situated in Bloemfontein between Johannesburg and Port Elizabeth, you have a chance of supplying fuel, tires, small repairs, and such is the opportunity in the maritime sector from a transportation point of view.
Definitely. What role do you think has been played by the government to include young people, to include women in the maritime industry?
Well, we have, as SAMSA, we have a program that we call National Cadetship Program. What happens, all the ships that trade with South Africa, and you would know that 90% of the things that you see and touch in this country, your car, the fuel it's in, the machines and everything, at some stage it has come through by sea. Now, those ships need seafarers to drive them. Now, that industry employs 1.5 million people internationally, and if we produce a South African ticket, it's good to work in Singapore, Russia, or anywhere else in the world. Now, that environment has a shortage of more than 200,000 seafarers. So what we then did was to say that, can't we claim our own part in the whole space? And so we started this National Cadetship Program to train seafarers to take up employment. I'm pleased to say that we've employed the first just over 220 people. And just to make this thing even more interesting for you, I'm trying to recruit them, because what they do at 21, they leave, they go to university. At 23, they join the ship. At 29, they're coming up with the highest ticket. And you're employing them at $12,000 per month, tax-free. Now we're beginning to talk, because those are real jobs that are international jobs. Now, the difficulty that we have is that we still use the same skills, whether you're wanting to operate ports, whether you're wanting to operate all the offshore industry, the loading of containers, all of that, the international trade as you know it, it's driven by that skill. And so we harvest them. They retire like sportsmen. Well, they have made the same amounts of money at 35 to 40. And when I'm trying to recruit some now, and they're not coming under 1 million rand of a package. So those are genuine, real jobs. And to me, so if you ask me what contribution have we made, well, I'll tell you the maritime skills development is one project that has produced the number of jobs that this country has needed. We need to upscale it so that we produce more and more, because the international demand is there.
Definitely. I think there's sort of a narrative around the NDP coming in and out of our eyes as South Africans. How do we make sure that these stories are consistent and we see them in the media, we see them everywhere, because this is exactly what the goals are for.
And that's a very important question. We need partners like yourselves. We are the architects of the vision that must plug onto the NDP. And so we need somebody to assist us tell the story. We need partners to assist us deliver on the vision itself. Now, there's one discussion and argument that we normally use, that government are an expense to the country because we draw salaries. What you need is industry partnerships. They are the ones that provide the jobs. But we occupy the space that allows us to create that environment for them to provide the jobs. And such is our partnerships. Maybe just to elaborate more on that point, if you look into sub-Saharan Africa, and those figures were bandied around quite a bit today, you've got 1.2 billion people, a very young population under 25 years of age, and that number is going to grow by 2050 to double that size. And it's going to be the biggest middle class you're producing. They're going to be eating, they're going to be wearing things, they're going to be consuming. Who's going to be supplying them? So the shipping industry is essential in making life the manner in which they want it. And so you guys are our partners, telling the story of what we've been doing. But I think what you owe us is to tell the future story. And that's where the positioning of the message needs to come in.
Thank you so much for your time, sir.
Thank you very much.